Welcome back to another episode of Four Chicks Chatting. I am here today. This is Robin with Mary Fran, Kristen, Kathy, and our very special guest, Tyler J. McCall. If any of you are on Instagram, you have probably seen Tyler here or there, and maybe even heard him on some other podcast episodes, or just seen him on Facebook or online or wherever. He's all over. He is the Instagram guru, and I'm going to tell you just a little bit about him before we jump into our episode. So Tyler J. McCall is an Instagram and social media marketer, strategist, and coach for creatives and online business owners. He teaches his students how to use Instagram with intention to grow their community online and grow their business. Tyler focuses on using Instagram and social media to tell stories, build relationships, and convert followers to fans. Drawing from his 10 years of experience in nonprofit marketing and management and community organizing, he's taught thousands of entrepreneurs and managed dozens of Instagram accounts since getting into the online marketing game in 2015. Tyler is based in Chicago, where he lives with his partner, Eric. When he's not coaching or teaching, Tyler enjoys Target, woot woot, and road trips that he documents on his Instagram stories. So welcome, Tyler.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
We're stoked that you're
My
here.
My favorite part of the whole thing is the Target aisle. I'm a devotee of the Target aisle. So, woo!
You had her at Target, Tyler. You had her at Target.
It's the $1 bonus Target aisle, right?
It is.
Right. Yeah. The Target thing is funny too, because like I legitimately love Target and I go to Target a lot, but it's also one of the kind of core messages that I use to connect with my audience. And that's one of the ways that I'm able to connect with folks and build a relationship that's not all about, hey, do you want to buy this stuff? It's about, hey, like, let's go to Target together.
Honestly, you're so right, because that immediately resonated with me. I mean, it was, and I guess your message is about finding those things. What do you do that resonates with other people, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then how do we build relationships with people online that are kind of rooted in these shared experiences or shared values or shared stories and are not rooted in this desire to sell people things? I just think it makes it so much more effective, and it helps us have so much more to work with down the road. Like our audience can kind of go with us and they're not just stuck with us in this relationship of like, hey, buy this thing. Do you want this thing? Get this thing. Buy this thing. Do you want this thing? Which it can feel like that online sometimes, right? We're just always trying to sell stuff.
Yeah. That is just, when Robin was reading your bio and talking about your bio and all, and just the idea of, this is so hard for me because you talk about creatives building a business, and to me those two words are like the complete antithesis of one another, because as a writer and a speaker and all that, I am in that creative space, but turning that into being a business is so hard. So the platform that you use, the Instagram, is just a really good way for creatives to do that. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into that and what that, like, help me? Help me!
Yeah.
She literally means help her.
I mean that.
She really does.
Yeah.
All
We're
sincerity.
tired of talking to her. Yeah.
Well, it all started back in 2015. I was working full-time in the nonprofit world, and I started doing the side hustle thing, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs, that's how we kind of start. And I started a business where I was making a product by hand. It was a room and linen spray that I made at my kitchen table with essential oils, and like I printed off labels from the copy machine at work. So sorry to anyone from the YMCA that's listening. And I was like packaging these orders, and I didn't know like really how to promote myself or how to sell it. So I just started an Instagram account for the business. And at that time, this was early on in kind of the world of Instagram marketing. And I noticed there were all these people who were creative people who were bloggers or writers, or they did home decor, or they did DIY, or they did a mom blog, or whatever it may be. And they were starting to build their followings on Instagram. And I noticed they were just literally just like documenting their life and documenting their projects on Instagram, but people were like really into it, right? And I kind of think that speaks to our like inherent voyeuristic tendencies, especially in the world of like reality TV and the Real Housewives and the Kardashians. Like we want to see what everyone is doing. And I noticed how well that was working for them. So I started sending them free product, and then they would just post about my product. And then I started getting sales from that. And that business grew kind of on the side. But at the same time, I started connecting with local businesses where I lived in North Carolina and just offering to run their Instagram accounts. Listen, at the time I had like an iPhone 4. I am not a photographer. I didn't know how to really compose an image. But I knew that I could create content and I could get the right people to that content. They just needed to trust me and give me some time to do it. So I started doing that at the end of 2015, and everything else is just kind of history from there and building my business. But what it really came down to is recognizing that there were a few key opportunities, especially for creative folks, to use Instagram for their business. I think the first one is to recognize how normal, everyday civilians are using Instagram, and then understand that us as business owners who are trying to sell something on Instagram need to make sure that we're fitting into Instagram in the same way. So just take, for example, if you were to think about maybe how your sister uses Instagram, or your kids use Instagram, or a friend uses Instagram, right, who's not a business owner, they're more than likely using Instagram to document the moments of their life. They're showing photos of their kids on their, first day of school. They're showing pictures of what they ate. They're sharing a video from their vacation, their honeymoon, from a friend's wedding, whatever it may be. They're simply documenting the key moments of their life on Instagram. So the question that I started asking myself is, why do we as business owners think that we don't have to do that? Why do we think that we just get to show up on the platform and be really salesy and promotional and share photos and videos of things that people can buy? We don't have to do any of the other stuff. We don't actually have to use Instagram like normal civilians are using Instagram. And what I recognized over time is that Instagram is actually not a photo sharing platform. It's actually never been a photo sharing platform. It's always, from its beginning, been a storytelling platform. It's always been a place where people document the stories of their life. So as creatives on Instagram, as business owners, that means that we can just show up and document the moments of our life in our business, but do so in such a way that it's speaking directly to our ideal customer or client, and then convert that person to a fan and a customer for our business.
I really love that, particularly because I think with a lot of creative people, our personas are so inherent in our businesses. They're so much a part of, our creativity and all that.
Yeah.
So to not show that, you're kind of not really showing your product, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people get caught up in a lot of these misconceptions about Instagram because we become so enamored with vanity metrics, and we become so obsessive over likes and follows and comments. And then we start to believe that just because someone may have more likes or follows or comments than us, then they have more answers about how to use this platform. And that for me to get to where they are, I just need to copy and paste their strategy onto my Instagram account, and copy and paste their captions, and copy and paste the formatting of their post. And that will be the thing that works. And people sell that too. They say, well, I got here. This is kind of my success path. Here is the success path that you can use. Just copy and paste and push the exact same buttons in the exact same order. But it's not true. That's not how it works, right? Because every single account on Instagram is different. Every niche is different. Every industry is different. Every audience member is different. So then what you need to understand is not just a copy and paste strategy, is you need to start to understand who the heck you're talking to on Instagram, and then how you can speak directly to that person and then move that person to action. Those are the buttons and the levers and the switches that you have to learn. And what it really comes down to is not a post a pretty picture with a bunch of hashtags and then this equals this result that you want. What it really turns into is create high quality content, nurture conversations, and create a community. And then do it in a way that is in line with your brand, your values, your audience, your product, your service. And screw what everyone else is doing. Forget about it. Don't worry about what they're doing and what's working for them. Focus on what you need to do and what's working for you. And that's what I empower my students to do. That's what I teach is there's a very particular way you can approach Instagram. There's a particular way to market and position and brand your business online in the modern world. And that way does not include any of these strategies about make sure you write this caption and then this hashtag and then post it this time. None of that's true, because Instagram doesn't work like it did a couple of years ago when those strategies did work.
Oh, Tyler, my heart be still. You're speaking my language.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here from a personal branding perspective. You said all the hot words, niche, authenticity, your ideal avatar. You really honed in on all of it. And you're so right. Like, you can't just follow what somebody else is doing, because it's going to completely take away from who you are and what your
Yeah.
brand is. And your brand is your personality infused into your business. So if
Yeah.
you're just doing what somebody else is doing, it's going to all fall flat. You're wasting your time.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think so many times people, right. And I think it's kind of like a societal thing that we start to feel this way of like, well, people aren't going to like me for me, right? Like, I don't look the same as everyone else. I don't sound the same. I don't have what they have. And so I need to like create this facade or this persona when I show up online. And maybe if I can get them to fall in love with that facade, then they'll really fall in love with my business and it can grow from there. But that's not sustainable, right? It's first of all, it's not genuine. It's not authentic. It's not in integrity. And I think a lot of us are doing this because we have such passion for what we do. And we have a bigger mission and a bigger vision for what we're doing. We're not just selling this thing or speaking on stage about this topic or writing this book. Like, we're trying to inspire and move people to be better parents or have a better life or have better relationships or be more healthy, whatever it may be. So with that in mind, you can't do that by putting on a mask of trying to be someone else every time you log on Instagram. It's just not sustainable. And what's going to take you so much further, and what I think has made it work for so many of the big names in the space, when we look at the Amy Porterfields or the James Wedmores or heck, the Gary V's or Tony Robbins, right? Those people of the world, like, they are the ones who are showing up as themselves, and you either love them or hate them. And that is key, right? You either love them or hate them, because we cannot magnetize people to us unless we are willing to repel people away from us. And if you want to magnetize people to you,
I love that. Write that down. I'm scribbling it down real fast.
Get that down. Okay.
Say that again.
yeah, so we cannot magnetize people to us unless we're willing to repel people away from us.
Love
So
that.
if we want to magnetize people to us and our brands, if we want people to be obsessed with us, if we want people to be a part of the movement we are creating, because let's be honest, we are all movement makers on Instagram, right? When we're doing this with this purpose and mission, if we want them to be a part of that, we also have to be willing to piss people off. We have to be willing to have people who don't agree with what we're saying, have people who are bothered by the way that we show up, who have people who don't like the way we look or sound or the way that we present ourselves. And the more you're willing to show up, just show up and magnetize people to you and push people away from you, the further you're going to get on this platform.
So Tyler, the people that we're pushing away are people that we shouldn't have anyway.
Exactly.
We're not pushing people away. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. We just recorded a podcast on bouncing back from rejection. And sometimes we feel like, okay, well, we can't be our authentic selves, because if people are rejecting us, that means there's something wrong with us, right? So then we have to go out and, like you say, start to copy others. But I want to talk a second about your social media marketing world. And my a great friend of mine, and she helps me a lot with my social media strategy. Shout out to Steph Sides, a social chickie. But we talked a lot. She shared with me about, and you've spoken to this, but you didn't use the word intention yet. So we're creating stories with intention. And you said, have a beginning, a middle, and an end of that story. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah. So this idea of creating Instagram stories with intention really comes from a few key things here. The first is that Instagram stories are now the most popular platform within Instagram. So Instagram stories are where a majority of Instagram users are spending their time every single day. And I think every other quote unquote issue that people are seeing on Instagram is directly related to this change in user habits. So the reason that organic engagement is down in the feed is because people aren't scrolling through the feed as much. The reason that hashtags aren't as effective as they used to be is because people aren't spending time looking in hashtags. People are spending their time watching Instagram stories. So as a business owner, as a brand, as an entrepreneur, as creative, whatever, that means you need to be showing up on Instagram stories or you're going to get left behind and forgotten by your audience. However, there's a really particular way to do stories so they are incredibly effective and they're not wasting your time. One of the biggest mistakes I see people making on Instagram is simply wasting their time doing the wrong stuff, right? So wasting their time just posting on stories to post on stories, wasting their time just posting in the feed because it's another item on their to-do list. And I'm of the belief, if you aren't doing it with intention to actually move the needle in your business and get that result that you want, and that result can look like anything. It could be more opt-ins, more inquiries, more leads, more sales, more speaking gigs, whatever it may be. If you're not doing those things to get that result, then spend your time doing something else. Like spend your time with your kids or watching Real Housewives or going to Target. Like, why waste your time staring into a tiny computer if you're not getting the result that you want? So creating Instagram stories with intention looks like going back to elementary school and remembering that all good stories have beginnings, middles, and ends. And that when you're going to tell a story on Instagram stories, you should always have a clear beginning of the story that sets your audience up for success so they know what they're going to experience. And it's equally important that you are giving them an out at the very beginning of the story. Like, you want them to open up that story. And if you're saying, hey, everyone, today I'm going to talk to you about X, or today I'm going to teach you this, or today I'm going to share this, and they're not interested in that, you want them to swipe away. You don't want to waste their time either. So at the very beginning, you're going to set the tone for the story. And then the middle of the story is where you're going to actually deliver the content. And this is where I see a lot of business owners start to get tripped up, because they'll start a story by saying, today I'm going to take you behind the scenes of this project I'm working on, or today I'm going to take you to Target with me, or today I'm going to take you, I have some client calls, I'm going to show you my process. And then they may do a couple, or they may do the first one, and then they just stop, right? Well, what are we training our audience when we're doing that? We're training our audience to believe that we're unreliable, that we don't finish what we start, that if they were to hire us, how are they to guarantee that we're actually going to finish the project? We're actually going to finish the job because we can't even finish an Instagram story, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these subtle subconscious things that we're telling our audience through the content that we're creating. So then the middle of the story is we take them through the entire experience and we make it incredibly valuable. There are lots of things we can do within this story to make it more engaging. So we do things like diversify the type of content we're sharing. We may share a video, then we share text on the screen, then we may share a photo. So we're keeping our audience engaged and interested. We do things like putting captions on our Instagram stories so we can actually serve our followers who are watching with the sound turned off, or followers who may not be able to hear, or followers who don't process hearing things the same way that other people do, right? So they would rather read the words on the screen. So we put captions on all of our stories to improve our retention. We do things like using the poll sticker or the question sticker as a way to get our audience used to engaging with us and tapping on the screen and having conversation with us. And then we always wrap up our stories. There's always a conclusion. And the conclusion can be as simple as a thank you for watching type of story. Like, that's all it has to be. Or it could be a call to action. You could set the tone for the next story. You could tease what you're going to do on your Instagram story the next day. You could direct them to your Instagram feed. There's so many ways you can do this, but you want to create stories with beginnings, middles, and ends. And what you're going to see happen over time is your retention is going to increase and improve. Your audience will be more connected, engaged with your content, and they'll be more willing to direct message you, to comment on your post, to let you know when they're ready to work with you, whatever that may be. But you just have to focus on that over time and really build those habits in your audience over time as well.
And are you doing that all day long? You start with a theme of the day and then go through your whole day with that and wrap it up at the end?
So it totally depends. So you can do it all day long. You can do every single day. You can do a story like that. Or that entire, we call it the story arc method. That entire story arc could literally just be like 3 different Instagram stories. It could be a photo, a video, and then text on the screen. Like, it doesn't have to be complex, or it could be 10 or 15 pieces of an Instagram story that go throughout the entire day. But what I encourage my students to do is just really get in the habit of practicing that beginning, middle, and end. A really simple way to do this is just an introduction story. So a quick introduction story of saying like, hi, my name is X. This is what I do. This is where I live. This is something interesting about me. Thanks for watching, right? Like 5 little Instagram stories, and you've done a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you've kind of ripped that Band-Aid off and started doing it.
That's awesome. You know, when this, you're making me think about, I didn't even do it intentionally the way you just said, but when we had, back in January, it was Louis Braille's birthday, and I educate about blindness because I'm raising 2 blind kids. And I did a whole thing all day about Braille. right? And it was just all these different things and how my boys use it. And then like the next day or something, I went to dinner with friends. I walked in, saw my favorite bartender who I didn't even know was following my Instagram. And he goes, "We love Braille." And he's telling all these people about Braille.
Yes, I love that.
It just occurred to me. I'm like, oh my God, that's what I should be doing with, because I feel like my Instagram stories are just random pops into Kristen's head. And then it's like, no wonder there isn't a big following coming back, because I like to go to certain people's stories and follow them. Now, I just had a massive aha moment.
Yeah. And so it's all about, right? It's all about training our audiences, right? So people are using Instagram in a really particular way, and they have habits about how they use it. We all have habits about how we use Instagram, right? We all have the exact same like we open up Instagram and we do X, Y, and Z, and it's so habitual we don't even know it's happening, right? It's just automatic. So what your job becomes as a content creator is, how do you intercept those habits and then help your content become a part of your audience's habits? So instead of trying to like always get new followers and get out there and do this and get more people to look at your blah, 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 what if you just focused on getting the people who already follow you to do what that bartender did? Watch your story and then tell other people about it. Like, think about how many more followers you would gain if you just focused on creating high quality content consistently for the people who are already there, and then just really lean into that content creation and that community building. And forget about how many followers you have. Forget about how many likes you're getting, right? Just focus on the content and the community and let it go from there.
So Tyler, oh, go ahead, Mary Fran.
No, I was just going to say that as a writer, I'm listening to you, and I'm why this didn't occur to me, because they are stories. But the whole point of it is, when you write, you are leading the reader to a conclusion. And the conclusion is, and Robin, I'll go back to your know, like, and trust thing. You know me, you like me, and you trust me. And you are, through these stories, you have an opportunity to lead your audience directly to that conclusion. And that's what you're saying we need to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that you brought up know, like, trust, because I believe that Instagram stories are one of the few tools that we have available to accelerate the know, like, trust factor more quickly than we can do it anywhere else online. Because you can go from finding someone on Instagram to learning so much about them through their post, and to seeing their face, hearing their voice, learning about their life, seeing their family, seeing their work, seeing their business, seeing behind the scenes, whatever it may be. You can do that in literally minutes, thanks to Instagram and Instagram stories. And just think about how quickly that can accelerate people to knowing you, and then they can figure out whether or not they like you really quickly, and then trusting you really quickly as well. And that's why I think Instagram is so powerful. You can't really do that on other platforms. Other platforms make it really difficult, but Instagram is this sweet little all-in-one, just a little snack of like marketing love. You got to take back food, right? A little snack. But it's like this perfect little bundle, right? Like, we have photos, we have writing, we have video, we have like everything all in one little place that people have in the palm of their hands, in their purse, in their pocket, and you have 24/7 access to your customers. Like, that's ridiculous. I don't know. Why are people complaining about Instagram? Like, look at this incredible opportunity that we have to connect with people and serve them really, really well, 24/7, 365.
I could talk to you all day long about all this, because my head is like spinning. I have like a list of questions for you, but something you just said though, like, having Instagram as this platform that within seconds you can make engagement, and in a very short period of time you can develop that know, like, and trust factor, which is so I talk that a lot, because with personal branding, that is the entire goal, is to create that know, like, and trust factor, so that they will, that emotional connection is what's going to sell. And you can do that without selling, which is, so it's not cheesy, it's not spammy, it's just real and authentic, which is so beautiful. But the one thing that I talk a lot about too is, content is key. It's such a critical component with developing that know, like, and trust factor, but then also being cohesive across all of your platforms. And I see it a lot of times where, you'll see somebody on Instagram and you think, wow, I really want to connect with them, but you can't really tell for sure what they do. So then you can go to their website, you get little bit of an idea about what they do, but it's not cohesive from their website to their Instagram. The pictures aren't the same. So you really don't even have a good idea of who they are. And if they're not posting in their stories, you can't get to know them. And I think it's a real disadvantage that they're putting themselves in by not having that cohesive content across all of their platforms. And they could do that as simple as a headshot so that people could recognize them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's such a missed opportunity for people. I think I feel like there's lots of reasons that happens, but one of the things I've been thinking about really recently is how I think one of the easiest ways to prove that you are an unreliable and undependable business owner is by not having clarity around what you actually sell, and then being able to concisely share that with the world. And I think we see that all the time, right? And I think, Robin, that really speaks to your point of, like, I don't know what you do or how to work with you or whether or not, like, you're right for me or whatever it may be, because you don't even know what you do yet. Like, you can't even tell me, like, if you were on an elevator and the doors open and Oprah walked in and you had 30 seconds with Oprah to tell her what you do, you couldn't even tell her what you do in 30 seconds, right?
No.
Because you don't even know what it is yet. And I think that, like, that coherent message, that coherent visual identity is so important. And I think there's so many easy ways to do it on Instagram, right? Like, just pick a couple of colors and use those colors in your feed consistently. Or, like you said, have a consistent, like, aesthetic in your photos and make sure that is coming through in all the content that you're sharing. And then use those same photos across all your platforms. I updated my profile photo on Instagram, which I only do like once a year at the most. And then I was on Twitter and I looked and I was like, oh, wait, I didn't update this profile photo. So I need to update this photo now. So then whenever anyone sees me online, it's like the same cheesy grin of me, like, leaning towards something, like an orange striped t-shirt, right? So
and they remember you. They know who you are in a split second. There's no guessing. Yeah. They know you're Tyler J. McCall and they know what you do.
Exactly. Yeah. And on Insta stories, there's so many easy ways you can do this. Like, one of the easiest things you can do that I always do is I consistently use the same filter on my Instagram stories, right? I typically always use the one, it's called Melbourne. I like it because it gives me like a nice kind of flat, like blown out kind of look on my stories. And like, that's the one I typically use. It makes the brights really bright and the blues really bright and the whites really bright, which is kind of in line with my brand. My brand is like blue and green and white. It's kind of all bright and airy. So I use it on my stories, right? So it's consistent throughout all my content. So when people see it, just like you said, they know that it's content from me.
You're doing it right now. I noticed it as soon as, because I know your Instagram grid and you are sitting there with the white background and it's your face. It's perfect.
Yeah, and you'll always see me in like either a striped shirt or a polo, and it's always going to be like green or blue. That's my thing, right? And it's also true to me. Like, this is literally all I wear. Also, you never see me from the waist down. I'm like wearing basketball shorts all day long.
I'm in basketball pants.
Yes.
Yoga pants, basketball pants.
Yoga pants, yeah.
It's all good. So Tyler, this is probably a little bit on the controversial side, but I want to bring it up because it's something that is a real pet peeve of mine. And I have been trying to grow my Instagram organically. Like, I am in there, I'm engaging, I'm doing this. My numbers are climbing, but they're climbing very slowly. And I think it's, one thing is I don't have hours in a day to spend, but the one thing I'm staying true to is my brand and myself and the content. But I hear a lot and I see this all the time, like every single day I see this, are these bots and the follow and then they unfollow and, and then they comment and it's like, their comment has nothing to do with what you posted, nothing to do whatsoever with the image or the caption. And so, it was a bot commenting. And that, and you can almost tell, like, the second you see that, oh, I have a new follower, but you can look at their profile and you're like, they'll be gone by, the afternoon. So what are your thoughts on that organic growth versus growing the number of follows or followers using these bots? Because there's so much, you hear so much about, well, you have to have the numbers for people to follow you. You have to have the numbers to have credibility. So, or, you have to have the numbers before people are going to interview you and all that kind of stuff. So what are your thoughts? Bots versus organic in relation to those number of followers and the value of the number of followers?
Yeah. So my first thought is for, I would say 98% of business owners, your number of follows, your number of likes, your number of comments really does not matter. I think the only people that it really matters for are those people who are considering themselves influencers in their space, or who want to get paid brand deals or brand partnerships, those types of things. So if you're trying to be an Instagram model and look super cute in your bathing suit at Coachella, right? Like, cool, you need 100,000 followers and great engagement. But for most of us, it doesn't really matter, right? I think a lot of times the obsession with the follower number is like the person that cares the most about it is us, right? Like, we're the person that cares the most about that number. And if we were to simply shift the way that we think about it, of instead of thinking about how do I get more followers, to a simple shift of how do I better serve the followers I already have, I believe that more followers will come. Because I think our mindset and our thoughts and our beliefs shape and create our entire reality. So with that in mind, if we just simply shift the way that we think about this one thing on Instagram, my number of followers, think about how that, first of all, like, I know when I say that, I like feel my body feels different, right? Mm-hmm. When I go from saying like, I want more followers on Instagram to the number of followers I have right now is the perfect number of followers. It's like you can take a deep breath, right? For like the first time in a long time when you think about it.
It's like a big weight has been lifted and you just feel lighter.
Exactly. Yeah. So with that in mind, okay, then the question becomes, how can I better serve the followers I already have? How can I create more valuable content? How can I get more people into my direct messages? How can I get more people to comment on my posts? Not because I want comments, but simply because I want to have more conversations with those people, right? And then let it go from there. I think the whole follow and follow thing, using bots like bot comments, I hate all that stuff. I think it's a waste of time and energy. I don't think it's genuine. I don't think it's really intentional. And I think the people who are doing that are those that are in this for short-term gains. They're not doing this to build long-term success. They're not running a business to build wealth. They're not doing whatever they're doing to have legacy or to leave something behind for their children or their friends or whoever it may be. Like, they're in this to make money right now. And they believe that having more followers, more likes, and more comments equals more dollar signs. But it's just simply not true. I know a heck of a lot of business owners, I'm sure you know them too, who don't even know how to post on Instagram, who make more money than we do. And I know a lot of people who have a lot more followers than I do who do not make nearly as much money as I do, right? Mm-hmm. So it really comes down to the understanding of likes, follows, comments do not equal dollar signs in your bank account. And that you can have I think you can just have a better experience on the platform if you show up with this mindset of how do I serve the followers I already have. And I also hate the automated bot comments. Part of my story that I share and I talk about is my father's death a couple of years ago. And I kind of documented my grieving process on Instagram. And if you find me on Instagram, you can scroll back to posts like June, July, August of 2017, where I talk about like how my body felt while I was grieving. I talked about my relationships through grief. Like, grief just wrecks you in so many ways. And I kind of documented this process for months. And I would get comments all the time. They would say, great post, great content.
You're like, what?
Thanks.
So I just shared about my dad dying, and you said, great content. Like, okay, so maybe use like every word that I was taught not to use growing up a Southern Baptist to describe like, that's how I felt, right?
Right.
And I hate it. But listen, I honestly believe like that. I think there's a lot of ways that we can change our experience on Instagram by simply shifting the way we think about the platform. And I think that's one of those ways. It's a really cool opportunity for us.
I love that. I love that you said that, because that's the mindset that I'm really trying hard to adopt and live in every day when I'm on Instagram, but just using it for that engagement. And I've developed some really cool relationships through Instagram, and I've gotten clients from Instagram, which is really cool. And that's where I want to be. But then you hear these people, chirping this, oh, well, you're never going to get anywhere if you don't have these numbers. So thank you for solidifying that we're all okay with the numbers that we have.
Yeah, of course. And I think another big question to always ask is like, what is the motive behind the marketing message that someone's sharing. So like when someone says, well, you need X number of followers to get this result, for me, I hear that as like a marketing message. And then I think, okay, what is the motive behind that message? Well, the motive is typically to sell a product or service to then help you get that result that they believe that you need. However, what I'll say is 9 times out of 10, someone that's come into our community inside the Follower to Fan Society, which is the membership that we run, someone who's come into Follower to Fan who has either invested in a product, a program, a course, a service from someone that teaches that, is coming in triage mode because they have spam followers, they have spam likes, they're not selling on Instagram, their engagement is down and it's decreasing because they have the wrong people following them.
So now that you mentioned engagement, if I can interrupt you for just 1 second,
yeah,
I think this is important too, because and I've heard this from, I think when you were interviewed by Julie Solomon, you talked about the percentages of like engagement as far as the likes should be like 2 to 5% of your following, and your comments should be X% of the numbers of followers you have. Like, can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think it's really important. If somebody is posting and they have 1,300 followers and they're only getting a couple of likes, something's wrong. You have the wrong followers. But if you have 1,300 but you have 100 likes on a post, then you're doing something right because you're engaging in almost 10% of your following.
Yeah. So, okay, this is a really interesting conversation. This is a present Tyler has to correct something that past Tyler said. Mainly because past Tyler was talking about Instagram then. But I think Instagram's so different now. So I'm really starting to believe that even engagement may not be the best indicator of the effectiveness of what we're doing on the platform, simply because user habits are so different than they were before. So I think what we teach our students, and I want to encourage everyone who's listening to do, is to decide on your metric. Like, what is the number that you are going to live or die by when it comes to Instagram? What is the number that when you are gauging the success of your Instagram strategy, it's going to be based on that one number? And I think for all of us, it's going to be different. For me, that one number is direct messages, because I know if I can get someone into my DMs, I have a much higher likelihood of converting them to a customer. So if I can get someone to my DMs, and I also know that Instagram stories are the gateway to direct messages. So if I can then get someone used to watching my stories, engaging with my stories, responding to my stories, it's going to be so much easier for me to get them to direct message me or to swipe up when I have a call to action. So typically in the past, we looked at engagement in the feed. We would say, well, 2 to 5%, or if your account was smaller, you'd have higher engagement. But I even think now with the way that people are using Instagram, it's changed so much. And there's this whole conversation, which is a whole nother episode about market sophistication and market saturation. And I think as we enter more sophisticated markets, and we're selling to a more sophisticated consumer, that their likelihood of engaging with our content decreases, right? Because they don't have time. Yeah. If you're trying to sell something to, a Fortune, 500 CEO, they're not sitting around looking at Instagram, liking and commenting on things, right? Like they're at a different stage. They're a more sophisticated consumer. So engagement may not always be the best indication. So what I like to look at now are a few key metrics. The first is our reach and our impressions. So how many people is our post actually reaching? And then how many impressions does that post have? So how many times was that post seen? So what I know is if my engagement changes, but my reach and my impressions have stayed the same, then it's a content issue. So if I have, let's take, for example, 1,000 followers, and I'm consistently reaching 500 of those followers. So I go look at my insights, and this is all available in Insights. You do need an Instagram for Business account, which, by the way, you should all have because you're a business on Instagram, and you can't make marketing decisions without analytics. So if you're looking at, I have 1,000 followers, and I'm consistently reaching 500 of those followers. Every post that I put up, I'm getting 500 people it's reaching that audience. But I'm consistently getting 100 likes. But this one post only got 20 likes instead of 100. but I still reached 500 people, but I only got 20 likes on this post. Well, then you can kind of start to hypothesize and start playing a scientist in your business and start asking questions like, okay, was it the time that I posted? Was it the photo that I posted? Was the content different than what I normally post? Was it a holiday that day? Were kids out of school that day? Was it something I didn't think about with posting? Then you can start asking all these great questions to figure out why the engagement changed on that one post. But we're looking at the reach and the impressions more consistently, because that's telling us, okay, the algorithm is consistently showing this content to X number of people. And even if they're not engaging with the content, that doesn't mean that they didn't read the content. That doesn't mean that they didn't get value out of the content. I read stuff all the time and I don't like it. Like, I don't know why. I just read it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's a cool photo. I don't like it. I just keep scrolling, right? So I think the engagement thing is maybe not. That's my very long-winded way of saying I don't know if it's as important as it used to be.
I really think you really hit a key point there, though, because I think, and it circles back to what you were saying about understanding how other people are using the platform, because I'm of the same mindset. People tend to people on the internet tend to bite and bark when they don't like something, but they don't always react when they do like something. So there is a measure probably in what you're saying of just making sure that you're putting out consistent content, that you're aware of who your market is, because there's an element of trust to that. You have to just you have to trust that your content is doing the right things, because people aren't going to engage. I don't engage all the time, but I remember people that I like, and I read them consistently, and I go back to those people all the time, but I'm not always jumping on to say, hey, good job. I don't have time for that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other part of it too is, I think a lot of people don't understand the life cycle of their consumer. They don't understand how long it takes someone to actually make a purchase decision. So sometimes that may mean you may have someone following you for months or years before they ever buy or direct message you or inquire about working with you or whatever it may be. Like, they just need more time. The scenario, the situation needs to be more right for them. Or what if the fact is that it's not that they don't believe in you or they don't believe in your product or service, but they just actually don't believe in themselves, right? Like, they don't believe in their ability to see the same result that your other customers or clients have seen. They don't believe that they have the time to implement your process. They don't believe they have the money to buy your product, right? And what if instead of trying to always get more people, or instead of trying to just sell more to those people, you focus on nurturing and connecting with those people and helping change the way they think about your product or service. So then they become a better customer, consumer, or they start telling other people about you, right? There's so many opportunities here, and we can't necessarily measure that based on like a like on a post. And I think this is the direction we're moving. And look, I mean, Instagram it's been discussed recently in the press. Instagram has an internal prototype that they're testing that eliminates like count for people who are following you. Like, the only person who'll see the number of likes you get would be you. So what would happen if you woke up tomorrow and people no longer saw how many likes you were getting on your post, or people no longer saw how many followers you had?
Do you hear the wretched screams coming from certain people?
Right?
Yeah, that's what I live for.
Yeah. But I don't know about you, but I live for, like, on Instagram, I live for conversations, connections, and conversions. Like, I know my Instagram account is working because I have money in my bank account that came from people on Instagram, right? Like, that's how I know it's working, and that's what I want people to focus on instead.
Preach, man! Thank God, because it's so true. It's logical. It's logical that your bank account is growing, your awareness is growing, your mission is growing. It doesn't matter what the filter is. It doesn't matter if you lined it up perfectly and your grid looks the way if it looks perfect and you're not going anywhere. Whoop-de-doodle,
Right, exactly.
There you have it.
And there you have it.
And on that
note, we do need to wrap up. I didn't realize how much there was to talk about.
Oh my gosh.
But it's been
I have
great.
one very important question that we cannot wrap up before I ask.
Yes.
That's fine. Are you going to ask about Instagram TV? Because I just want to know what Tyler's thoughts are on that. And I think you can answer that probably pretty quickly.
Just jonesed in on your...
I wasn't going to ask about it, but it is an important point, so let's talk about that first.
Okay, I think IGTV is still so fresh and so new. I haven't fully used this. I have not fully used it yet for my own business. I will say this: if you are a business or brand who has an engaged following on Instagram, and you want to create and share long form content with that audience, then IGTV could be a great fit for you. IGTV is not searchable. It's not discoverable. It will not help you get more followers. It will simply help you deepen the relationship with the followers you already have. If you want to expand your reach and get in front of new people, then a platform like YouTube may serve you better. However, it's important to note that every platform is its own beast.
Yeah.
Every platform is its own algorithm, its own strategy, its own culture. There's so many things to figure out about that. So IGTV is not a replacement for YouTube. I think it can be a supplement to YouTube, but I think you really just need to ask yourself, what is my goal with creating this longer form video content? Is it to get more new eyes on me than YouTube may work? Is it to make the relationship I have with my current audience even stronger? Then IGTV may be a better fit.
Okay, Kath, you're up.
Okay.
Hit us,
Tyler.
Marcino.
What is your favorite Housewives show?
Okay. This is
huge.
Deep dive here.
This is huge because I remember sitting, and I'm an OG. I'm Vicky Gunvalson right now. Okay, so I've been there for every state, every county, whether it be I'm carrying peaches, apples, oranges.
And you're busting in state dinners at the White House. Me too.
So I just need to know, who is it for you?
My favorite franchise is Orange County, the original.
Yeah. I met them.
She did.
I did.
I love it. Yeah, I love Orange County. Listen, I love all of them, but Orange County is one of my favorites. And I'm a little controversial in that I am a Shannon Bedore fan. I know people hate her, but I love her.
Yeah, she's hilarious.
She's hilarious, but she is probably, if you talk about authentic, I mean, she's as real as it gets. I mean, I don't know, for guys who don't know this, she gained a lot of weight. Of course, she blamed it on Vicky, but she gained a lot of weight. She gained 40 pounds and she lifted up. She's just turned 50, or maybe she's 51, 52 now, but she lifted up her shirt in front of her trainer and showed everybody that. Now, hell no, I wouldn't do that.
And her trainer goes, "Oh, wow."
Yeah.
What an asshole, right?
I mean, how authentic
There's an Instagram story for you.
Yeah.
Here's
shirt up, shirt down.
I gotta fix that.
Middle age. I know. I loved it. I found it refreshing.
Yeah, I love her too.
Great. But
I like that she's a little unhinged too, and she just lets it show on TV.
But watching her go through that divorce was heart wrenching, and then all the aftermath.
Yeah.
And
So
I wouldn't have done it on live TV.
Yeah, I'm a huge Housewives fan, and I have been since the beginning. I do think that sometimes some of the stuff it's a little bit like, y'all need to deal with that behind closed doors. Like, I think divorces, I think all the New Jersey family drama, I think a lot of that, they do not need to deal with that on television.
They do that in real life on the street anyway.
I was gonna say that's Jersey.
That's Target. Go to Target in Jersey. That's
my God!
Okay, that would be a great
They're
field trip.
flipping aisles. They're flipping.
Hey, we should go on a Target tour to the OC, to Jersey, to Atlanta. See if it's all true to the show.
Those are your next road trips, Tyler.
Right. Well, one of my favorite Targets is in Irvine, California, just a few miles from Vicky Gunvalson, Coto de Casa Insurance Company.
I love Orange County itself, the place.
Yeah,
Me
gorgeous.
too.
My kids love it too. My kids don't fight in Orange County. I don't understand. Why haven't I relocated there? Oh, yes, because I'd be living in a tent on the beach.
They know
now we need to know. We need to bring this back home and find out where people can find you and reach you.
Do you have any value bombs that you learned from Tyler today before we let everybody know where they can find Tyler and what incredible offering he has?
I was just thrilled with the whole beginning, middle, end story kind of thing, because it really gives me a framework for thinking about how to create stuff, because you guys know I'm the social media lag behind here, and it's intimidating.
Capital L lag behind.
Really, really. But when you put it in a framework like that, as a writer, I can relate to that. So that gives me a framework. So that was really helpful for me. So thank you.
Good. You're welcome.
Yeah, me too. You just made stories meaningful. I get it now. I've been trying to get it, been trying to understand and not throw my phone across the room that, all you have to do is hashtag Bryce Harper and I get a bazillion, interactions and it goes nowhere. And now I get it. Let's do beginning, middle, end and not worry about the perfect grid and make sure that the content is there. Very good.
Having the stories with intention. Think about the end in mind. And are you solving a problem with your customer? Do you want them to call you? Do you want them to then work backwards and figure out how you need to interact with them?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I loved the part about you really dove into like the personal branding component of it with the being cohesive, having, the coherent stories and the content that really connects to a community.
Yeah.
So I
love
loved it.
it.
Okay, so Tyler, where can our audience find you? And tell us a little bit about your Instagram masterclass.
Yeah. So, obviously Instagram is the best place to hang out with me. So at Tyler J. McCall, I'd love to see you over there. And my call to action for you is to share that you listened to this episode. Like take a screenshot, post it on stories, tag us on your Instagram stories so we can all hang out. Or just send me a direct message. Let me know you're listening. I'd love to chat with you over there. And then if you want to learn more about how to use Instagram for your business or your brand, if you want to learn my complete 6-step system for using Instagram to turn your followers into customers and how to do it without worrying about getting more followers or having a picture perfect feed or any of those things, then go to tylerjmccall.com/free. And there'll be an invitation there to join me for my free Instagram masterclass. It's a little over an hour long. I'm going to walk you through all things Instagram marketing strategy and how you can use it for your business.
I will be signing up for that today.
This is my middle of my story. I did my beginning. Here's my middle.
Right?
So I got
it's already in our
5 points. Another 5 points, but it's not on my story, baby.
Oh, it's in our 4 Chicks story.
There we go.
Well, folks, that's a wrap for our episode with Tyler J. McCall. Please find us on that social thing. Please leave us a review because that is what fuels us and gives us the opportunity to grow and bring you more incredible guests like Tyler. And that's it for today. Thanks again, Tyler.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.